I dedicated 6 months of my life to the Baldwin Motors account, sacrificing weekends and evenings away from my family. When Jackson, their marketing director, handed me 2 Super Bowl tickets as a personal thank you, I almost cried. My father, a lifelong Bears fan battling heart disease, would finally see a Super Bowl live. I called him immediately, already picturing his face when I told him. Little did I know, my boss Trevor was listening around the corner. Before I tell you how my dream turned into a nightmare, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had something unfairly taken from you. I grew up in a blue-collar neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, where my father worked double shifts at the steel mill to keep food on our table. Every Sunday was sacred in our household. Game day meant Dad and I would crowd around our small television cheering for the Bears through thick and thin. He taught me that success comes through honest, hard work and perseverance, values I carried into my adult life. When I landed the job at Hammond & Associates, a prestigious marketing agency on Michigan Avenue, Dad proudly told everyone at his union meeting. 3 years of community college and 5 years of grinding at smaller agencies had finally paid off. I was not an Ivy League graduate like most of my colleagues, but I made up for it with a work ethic that caught the attention of senior management. Dad had been my rock through every career milestone, but now I worried about him constantly. Last year, doctors diagnosed him with congestive heart failure. The medications helped, but the spark in his eyes had dimmed. We still watched games together, though now I drove to his apartment rather than sitting in our old living room. When he talked about someday seeing a Bears Super Bowl, I heard the unspoken timeline in his voice. Someday needed to come soon. Your father sounds like a great man, my colleague Sophia mentioned after overhearing one of our phone calls. You two are close, huh? He raised me alone after Mom left, I answered. Everything good in me came from him. Little did I know how much those family values would be tested in the months ahead. The Baldwin Motors project landed on my desk on a freezing January morning. Trevor, my department head, called an emergency meeting, his face unusually serious. Baldwin is looking to reposition their luxury line, he announced to our team of 5. Their board wants younger buyers without alienating their core demographic. They are talking to 3 agencies. We need to win this. What Trevor really meant was that I needed to win this. Within days, I found myself working 14-hour days, coordinating with research, design, and digital teams. My tiny apartment became command central walls, covered with buyer personas and competitive analyses. We need preliminary concepts by Monday, Trevor would demand on Friday afternoons before heading to his golf games. While he perfected his swing, I ordered takeout and pulled all-nighters. The first presentation to Baldwin went reasonably well, but their marketing director, Jackson Williams, was clearly expecting more. He was a straightforward man in his 50s, who had built their brand from regional to national prominence. I like your thinking, Renee, he said afterward, ignoring Trevor completely. But I need to feel more connection with the younger market you are targeting. Show me you understand them. For the next 3 months, I lived and breathed the project. I canceled a vacation to Puerto Rico, missed my college roommate's wedding, and saw my father only during quick Sunday visits, where I often fell asleep on his couch during the third quarter. Trevor, meanwhile, would waltz in for client meetings, presenting my ideas as if they were collaborative efforts. As Renee and I discussed became his favorite phrase, though our discussions typically consisted of him rejecting my initial concepts and then presenting them as his own 2 weeks later. The relationship I built with Jackson became my saving grace. Unlike Trevor, he recognized authenticity. He started calling me directly, bypassing Trevor entirely. You remind me of myself 30 years ago, he confided during a late dinner after our 5th presentation. Hungry but honest. That combination is rare in this business. When the final presentation day arrived, I had not slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. The entire executive team from Baldwin Motors would be present, including their notoriously difficult CEO. Trevor spent the morning taking credit for my preparation. Remember, follow my lead today, he whispered as we entered the boardroom. But something unexpected happened during that presentation. When the CEO asked a technical question about market penetration strategies, Trevor froze. Without missing a beat, I stepped in with detailed projections and contingency plans that impressed even the finance department. Jackson caught my eye and gave a subtle nod. By the end of the day, Baldwin Motors had signed an exclusive 3-year contract with our agency, their largest commitment ever. 2 days later, Jackson asked me to meet him for coffee. He brought a small envelope. The company is sending an official thank you to your agency, he explained. But this is from me personally. He slid the envelope across the table. For the nights and weekends you sacrificed while others were enjoying their lives. Inside were 2 tickets to the Super Bowl taking place in just 3 weeks in Las Vegas. Not just any tickets. 50-yard line seats worth about $8,000 each. My hands trembled as I read his handwritten note, Renee. Some rewards should go directly to those who earned them. Enjoy the game. I called my father from the parking lot, barely able to contain my excitement. Dad, pack your warmest Bears jacket, I practically shouted into the phone. We are going to the Super Bowl. His emotional response, a mixture of disbelief and joy, made every late night worthwhile. I was so engrossed in our conversation that I failed to notice Trevor standing near my car, listening to every word. The next morning, Trevor appeared at my desk with unusual friendliness. Great job on the Baldwin account, he said, loudly enough for neighboring cubicles to hear. We should discuss next steps. Lunch today. As he peppered me with questions about Jackson and client expectations, a sense of foreboding settled in my stomach. Something had changed, and I knew it had nothing to do with professional development. Trevor chose an expensive steakhouse for our lunch, something completely out of character for him. Typically, he considered staff lunches a waste of company resources. As we settled into our leather booth, he ordered a bottle of wine without consulting me. To success, he toasted his smile, not quite reaching his eyes. I sipped water instead, needing clarity for whatever game he was playing. The conversation meandered through performance reviews and team restructuring before Trevor casually mentioned the Super Bowl. Heard you got quite the thank you from Baldwin, he said, cutting into his $60 steak. Those tickets must be worth a small fortune. I nodded cautiously. Jackson was very generous. You know, Trevor continued swirling his wine, there is company policy about accepting gifts from clients.